Welcome to another episode of Ton's 2 Cents T2C podcast. Today's discussion is on the Small Business Innovation Research Program, or the SBIR program, with a sharp focus on direct award for SBIR Phase III. We're peeling back the layers of the SBIR program, especially focusing on the strategic gold mine that is Phase III. Today, we'll dig deep into how innovative ideas transform into mission-critical capabilities. I'm your host, Ton Wilson, and with us today is Bill Robinson, the president of Tri-Stag Consulting and AFCEA International's Texas Region Vice President. Bill and I have known each other for over 5 years through our volunteer and leadership at various levels of AFCEA International, which I encourage our intellectuals to check out. Bill, thanks for joining us today. And can you say hello to our listeners, who we call intellectuals, and tell them a little bit about yourself? Share a little of your journey and experiences with the SBIR program if you can.
Hey, Ton, and all of your intellectuals out there, thanks very much for having me. It's always so much fun to sit and talk with you. I really enjoy a lot of our deep discussions we have. So I'm a retired Air Force veteran, served almost 21 years, and what's interesting about that is in 2023, I actually turned 20 years retired. And so almost up to now, since we're 2024, about the same amount of time that I served. And what's important with that is it gives some of the diversity that I bring to the table here for this conversation. And that's kind of what I want to highlight a little bit. When I retired doing cybersecurity for the Air Force, I went into helping different companies over the years do business development and capture management, helping them grow their business when you're a subject matter expert. And I've worked for a lot of larges and smalls, kind of typical. Some of those smalls have the socioeconomic status, and even worked for one of our Super 8A. So I'm kind of familiar with all the different acquisition capabilities. And the last company that I went to work for, it was interesting. They came to me at an AFCEA conference and tried to get me to come over, and they're telling me about, hey, we do SBIRs. And I'm like, SBIRs, that's R&D, that's widgets and stuff. That's not me. I'm a cybersecurity guy. And it wasn't until he finally broke it down a whole lot more of how unique that program is and what you can do with it, that I finally got it. And so glad that I did, that I joined over that company to help them. Now I have my own consulting practice. I take on some of my own clients, and I even work for a couple of other 1099s with McFalls Associates and SBIR advisors, helping leading edge technologies take their SBIR capabilities into the hands of the warfighter to really make a difference with their capabilities.
That's great, Bill. And in honor of our friendship and our background, I'm going to have a glass of Weller while we have this discussion. So for those of you bourbon lovers, the bourbon of the day is Weller. But with your vast experience, Bill, in GovCon and SBIRs, and I love how you're not afraid to mention that you did not know about this before. And so we're all kind of learning about it. And this is the great part of being able to share and collaborate, is what was that pivotal moment or project highlighting the potential and impact for SBIR Phase III direct awards that kind of shaped the future of small businesses in the defense sector today?
Wow. It was interesting when Mike came, Mike Shirley, the guy who tried to hire me, was telling me about SBIRs, and I was trying to understand a little bit more about how that actually came to be. And he was telling me about the unique aspect of the SBIR program. And as I'm starting to learn the history of this, I'm like, it's been around since 1985. And I'm like, wow, okay. So R&D is typical, right? You hear a lot about it, leading edge technology stuff, which is wonderful. But I'm a cyber guy. I'm a services, right? How does this apply today? And the SBIR program, when you look at it, it was designed to go, hey, we in the government, we got problems. And I don't always have a clearly defined requirement. Sometimes I don't know what I need. So does anybody out there have this? Or how can you help me? And they've really done a great program. The SBA runs it today. And most people hear about the phase ones and twos, right? The free money, where the government puts out a need and individual companies will take the time to respond to that and put something forward going, hey, this is how I think you should solve that problem. And this is how we do it for our customers today. And it's interesting when you have an actual government customer who's got that need and they get all these responses, and the whole competitive process of getting it down selected to that one company that could actually build a prototype and actually solve that problem. It's really cool to see how that works. And I can explain a little bit more as we go a little bit deeper later on in the conversation. But this company that I was working for, he had a whole bunch of SBIR technologies, had a diverse aspect, and a lot of them had to do with data analytics. And we all know government contracting. What's the one of the three tenets of government contracting is cost, schedule, and performance, right? So if you have a SBIR technology that has anything to do with that, guess what? Just that alone justifies the direct award capability. And when I saw that put into place and being able to help him find a customer that actually had a need like that and didn't have an acquisition capability and they liked that technology and wanted to use it, it's a perfect match to really help that government customer solve their acquisition problem at the same time advancing an innovative capability. And I got to see that firsthand a number of times.
Yeah, that's key, right? Is how do we innovatively help government customers solve problems? It's not about, random acquisitions or procurements, and sometimes it is, but it is truly helping our customers with their mission. And it sounds like you've witnessed firsthand how the cyber, landscape has transformed from the foundational history and the pivotal broad agency announcements, or BAA.
Yep.
Yes, listeners, we like our acronyms, and so we're going to be throwing a lot of acronyms in here. So get your acronym finder and Google searches up, but to the emergence of some innovation hubs like AFWorks, NavalX, SoftWorks. They're all
Oh yeah.
hungry for the next leading technology. So, can you walk us through this evolution and the pivotal role of direct awards in Phase III? It seems to be really a real game changer, isn't just viewing this as another phase, because we hear a lot about Phase I and II, but rather how these technologies and capabilities kind of align and support the critical missions.
Yeah, there are a number, like you mentioned, of government organizations that are looking for that innovation. But let's understand something. This is a SBIR program for the entire federal government. It's not just the DoD. There are 11 federal agencies today that do that R&D so much that they have their own established program. The DoD is one of the 11, right? So
That's
if you
true.
hear us focusing on the DoD, understand this is a federal government agency, and the Small Business Administration manages this. So, you can kind of tell, well, first of all, organizations like AFWorks, NavalX, SoftX, all those innovation hubs are standing up today because they realize we're going to beat China and Russia. We're going to need some innovative technology. In the commercial world, there are companies doing this today with that capability in retail and in finance and in manufacturing. They've got great capability, and we do all that in the military, right? In the DoD, and so any of those capabilities is what they're looking for to help solve today's challenges. So when you understand the SBIR program, once again, Phase I and Phase II is research. Phase III, which I don't particularly care for the word Phase III, but it's basically if you were to forget about the word Phase III altogether. It is about after you've done and proven your technology, go out and sell it, right? So Phase I was the concept phase, right? Picture a bar napkin, right? It is the government says, hey, I don't know what I need, but can you help me? And you go, yeah, I think you should do it this way, right? If the government likes it and they get maybe 10 responses to that one requirement, then they'll pick one, two, three of them and nominate them all for a Phase I award and go, okay, here's a little bit of money, but tell me more about your capability. Let's break it down a little bit more. I like what you've got. You might be able to help me. but understands this is all part of a BAA, like you mentioned, right? And 3 times a year, these things get posted out there and companies watch for these. But that one government client who put out that need may, of all the ones put in, doesn't mean, those 10 are all probably great, but they picked only 3 of them that may help, that they kind of like and think that may work. In that competitive aspect, they down selected them, they've awarded them, and they says, okay, go explain it a little bit more. And when that information, everybody does their deliverables 6, 8, 10 months later, whatever, that government customer may find one and go, hey, that's the one I think is going to really solve my problem. They'll nominate them for a SBIR Phase II award, right? And of course, there's a lot more to it, right? But I'm just trying to simplify it as much as I can. But they picked that one. Doesn't mean the other 2 that got a Phase I isn't any good. They just happen to pick this one. And that one will work with that customer over the next year, year and a half, for whatever amount of money that is given, $1 million, whatever the case is, to build out, improve that. So we went from concept phase to prototype phase, right? So now you can actually, you've got a contract, a Phase II contract, and you delivered something for the customer. That means you've proven that your capability works, hopefully, by the time you did your final deliverable, right? So now you have the same thing everybody else has in your company. You got some competitive capability that you're trying to sell. No different than any serviceman who decides to start up their own company. They're a service-disabled veteran-owned small business that does IT services. Okay, what do they normally do for BD? They go in and sell, hey, we can do all this stuff. You've just proven out in the SBIR program you can do this. You have a capability. But there's the nuance. There's some acquisition benefits in the SBIR program that you don't have if you just stood up your own company all by yourself, because you've been awarded intellectual property rights, and that's what makes the difference. So does that and I wanted to mention too that AFWorks has actually stood up. When they stood up their organization, they came up with a creative way to do a open topic that a lot more services are now doing too, saying, okay, I don't have a government need right now, but if you got something really cool, put it in, nominate it, and if we like it, we'll help you to try to take that all the way forward. And that's what they do with the open topic, which is Air Force is leading the way there when it comes to that. But the Navy's got a great SBIR program. The Army's coming on board a whole lot more. The other service or those other federal agencies, NASA, HHS, they're all doing it. So if you've got a leading edge technology out there, bring it into the SBIR program, and you're going to see that there's a lot more benefits.
Yeah, well, thank you for that crash course on
Yeah.
all 3 phases of SBIR. Building on this discussion about the SBIR Phase III structure, which is where our focus is today, let's pivot on the unique competitive advantage of the direct award offers. The advantages streamline the path to securing contracts and open up an entire world of possibilities for innovation and collaboration. Bill, you've highlighted some of these key facets, such as the automatic competition credit and the flexibility in contracting. Can you elaborate on how these elements empower businesses to leverage their SBIR efforts more effectively?
Sure. So let's first understand, once we go beyond the research phase and you have something here now, you can then take your SBIR, call it a technology if you want to, but now it's a capability. We all know the government's got plenty of tools. They don't need any more tools, so they need solutions, right? So you've got an intellectual property capability that was awarded through the SBIR program. And so in order to justify a Phase III, a direct award contract, it is all about deriving from or extending or completing the effort that was done in the SBIR program into an operational mission. So no one wants to complete their SBIR capability, right? They want to extend it. And I'm going to read you just real quickly from the SBA's extension. Extending means the requirement or contract applies or advances a prior SBIR effort to a different application or uses the prior SBIR effort in a new way. And
Okay.
when you look at that and you go, okay, I may have built a cyber technology for the chief petty officer down in the bowels of a submarine engine room or something, right? But it was a process flow to do maybe energy consumption or something. But what's your real intellectual property? The process flow.
Yeah.
Now you can take that and extend it into a new way and go sell a process flow with the Department of Transportation or Department of the Air Force or HHS
Department of
or
Energy or yeah,
any
exactly.
any of them, right? You have a capability, you can now do that. So the benefit is what the government says is since we helped build this capability with government funds, we're going to help you. You solved our problem. We're now going to give you the capability of direct award access, right? And we all know the government, one of the easy buttons that they've always had before is Section 8A of the Small Business Act, right? The 8A program, which is wonderful. And you got disadvantaged businesses that qualify, and there's a great way to push work to them to help them grow their businesses. And some of the Native Americans companies that have that Super 8A on $100 million direct award contracts, that's all great. But the SBIR program has that same capability. You can get a direct award contract. No J&A is required whatsoever, though they can always have one. And I highly recommend there are the Air Force and the Navy both have a Phase III guidebook. Go read that, show that to your government customer, and they'll be able to, you can see it's written by government people for government people, and it'll answer. They got a great Q&A section that answers a lot of those questions. But those benefits of couple that I wanted to point out, there's no limitation whether it's products or services or even continued R&D or a combination of all of them. All of that can be done on a Phase III, right? So you're not limited in any way. What people got to get out of their mind, even though 90% of the cyber world was probably a widget, a lot of us deal in services work, right?
Yeah.
Software development, process flows, right? Services type thing. There are cyber technologies, cyber capabilities that could be enhancing that type of work, and that's why they allow you to have a really broad scope of work to use with that cyber capability. You can buy software licenses on there. You can buy materials if needed. You can have large business subs as small business FFRDCs, unlike the 8A program, which is only, they got to do 51% of the work because it's designed for that a disadvantaged business. SBIR program, there's no limitations when it comes to that. So there's any federal agency, any security level, there's a lot of benefits for a SBIR Phase III, that direct award capability with a SBIR company.
Yeah. And this is so interesting because I had a lot of the preconceived notions that probably many of our intellectuals are coming into this discussion with. And it wasn't until Alamo Ace last year where it really that panel really kind of opened my eyes and a lot of people's eyes. It was standing room only. For those of you who were at Ace last year, it was standing room only in a very, very
Sure.
warm, small room.
It
So
is
I'm so
beautifully small.
excited that we're having a continued conversation, from that segment there. But let's transition from strategic frameworks to the practical realities of SBIR Phase III, and let's explore the personal insights and experiences that truly illustrate these strategies in action. So, Bill, in your journey through the SBIR landscape, is filled with stories and lessons, and we are so honored to have you here to be able to share some of those with us, such as your interactions with HNC Kernel and navigating the often chaotic acquisition environment. Can you share some of your experiences and the actual strategies that you've developed for businesses and small businesses in particular aiming to secure the direct awards?
Sure. Let me. So one of the things I like to start with is a story. Yeah, it
I love
was.
your stories, so don't ever stop telling me your stories.
Yeah, this one was, and I won't tell you the actual organization, but we went into an acquisition organization, and we're sitting down. We finally got a meeting with the colonel and they had the contracting officer, and they had some of their senior leaders and stuff, and we're giving our pitch on what we do in phase threes and all of our SBIR capabilities. And we could tell the one KO, she just like was turning us off right away, wasn't even going to listen to anything.
Just
And
having none of it.
it's just having none of it. Which to their credit, government organizations, they have their processes. They've been doing it for a long time. I'm not saying you came in as a GS7 and now you're a 15 or whatever, and you don't have any original thoughts. No, I'm not saying that at all. It's just some of them have certain ways they do business. They've always done it that way, and everybody's done it. So when you bring something new and innovative like this, they don't know how, because they've never done it before. One, they're very skeptical about, is this even legal and ethical? Yeah, I would have
Is
said,
this gonna
hey,
land me in jail somewhere? Is that what they're thinking? Like,
yeah, exactly. And it's like, you should have had this conversation when someone was pitching OTAs to you, which is non-FAR based, but this is all FAR based stuff, and you're questioning it. And we're going through, and it was interesting. Everything we were saying, the KO is just nitpicking it and like, no, you can't do that, da da da, whatever. And my boss is doing the presentation, and he was like, well, actually, we're doing that today, and we're giving examples of other service KOs who are already doing it, and referencing other acquisition KOs and other departments that were already doing it. You just don't know about it. And she is just picking it and just like, no, that's not what we do, to whatever. And it was amazing. The first time I've ever seen this, the colonel said, would you stop? Are you not even listening to them? They're telling you that. And he was able to recite it right away. And I was just so impressed that the colonel got it before the acquisition people got the whole concept going. So what you're telling us is, you can do all this, da da da, whatever, right? And we went through based on our company's capabilities and and we were relating it to work that they do. So it was quite interesting to get them to. Some people just don't want to listen to it whatsoever. All right. So after that story, what did you want me to answer? I apologize.
no, what are some of the actual tips and best practices that you can look
Oh,
at securing? So I
yeah.
love that
So
story, and that is such a typical story, but that has got to be very heartening to hear that a colonel was like, "You're not hearing this."
yeah, telling the contracting offices, yes, this is something you can do. So yeah, in related to that, you have to understand your SBIR intellectual property. This is the first thing you got to do. And I'm not saying, once again, you built it for that Navy customer, but that's not truly what your intellectual property is. Understand what that is at the core, and then take that and relate it to your government customer's mission. How can you support them, right? You got to understand, if you're talking to a cyber customer, how do you help their cyber division? If you're talking to a flight line, on the Air Force side, and uh, military aviation, and jet fuel consumption or whatever, you got to take whatever you've got and relate it to their mission, so they get that you get them. And then being able to explain, hey, this is how you can get to us. I mean, we all know in business development, when you're pitching to a government customer, what are you telling them? You're telling them who you are, what you do, who you've done it for, and how they can get to you, right? Well, how they can get to you, let me ask you this. If you were an 8A company, a Super 8A, Alaskan Native, Hawaiian or American Indian company, and you're doing your pitch and you say, I'm an 8A, and everybody knows, oh, it's an 8A, they can do anything, right? It's automatic. Consider yourself the same as an 8A. You go and you tell them who you are, what you do, who you're doing it for. And when they say, how do they get to you? You can go, I can do a direct award through the SBIR program. It's what it comes down to. It's no different. But everybody thinks, oh, they're so focused on the R&D side of it. And they're thinking, oh, do I got to go back to phase 1 and 2 before I can start 3? No, that's already been done years before. It's already proven out. So that SBIR capability that you built before, you can use that over and over and over again on SBIR Phase III contract. What is a SBIR Phase III contract? It looks like every other government contract. It's the same cover sheet. What I like to do, especially when the customer is trying to figure out the NAICS code, do they need small business credit? Well, if you allow them to mark it as a small business set aside, what does that mean? That means small business has to do that 51% of that work. That's the law. Well, that's awful hard if you're trying to bring in Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Leidos, any of the bigs on there, and you're worried about work share. But if you have a NAICS code of, let's say, 541715, which is only 1,500 employees, it's not based on the dollar size like some of the other competitive IT ones, then you don't need to mark it as a small business set aside. You're automatically going to get small business credit. So those that want small business credit, but just remember, Lockheed Martin could turn around and buy a SBIR company. Now they can do phase threes. What's the difference? Well, Lockheed Martin is not trying to meet small business credit, so they're not worried about that, right? So there's a number of different ways that it can be done. You just got to look at who you're talking to, know your customer, have a 2-pager, like most business development would say, get your 2-pager together, describe your SBIR capabilities, describe how it can be done and utilized in the mission. The Air Force has strategic objectives that you've got to relate your capability inside of one of those strategic objectives, or they're not going to talk to you. So you got to know your customers and know if you can show them the A team, who's the A team they want. Like in 8A, you can do alpha contracting. They can sit down and have one-on-one conversations, things that they can't do in a competitive world, they can do on direct negotiations. So let's talk about who they really want. Know who's doing this work today. Does that client want them back? Are you partnering with somebody else? And have those conversations. Be ready to do that.
Yeah. No, so I'm glad that you mentioned some of the ways to educate the customer. I think a lot of times what we spend our time in when we go in and speak to the customer is really educating them not only on the technology and the solutions that we're proposing, but how to get to us. Like, what are some of the creative ways, especially those that don't have an 8A or any type of special economic classification that if you're a vanilla company, this is a really great way for you to take advantage of some great direct award opportunities. And what we do for our customers too is we do develop a one-page type of educational sheet, whether it's for OTAs or direct awards, or maybe you've got a special contracting vehicle. If you're a company that has a cyber technology or services that is in phase three, then have a spec sheet, have some type of a capabilities statement of, what it is and how can the customer come to you, because they may not be aware of it. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I try to be fair with the government, where I think industry is so quick to be very judgmental about the government buyer, about their abilities, whether or not they're smart enough or whatever. It's like, let's be fair. They're dealing with a lot of challenges. There's an aging workforce. There's greening of the force. There's a lot of new KOs that are just not as well experienced and knowledgeable in some of these different types of vehicles and way of procuring. There's new acquisition possibilities all the time. There's new vehicles that are coming up every single day. You cannot stay ahead of everything and be super knowledgeable on everything. So I think it's really incumbent upon industry to not only be patient, but be very respectful of the government buyer, and to use as a way to collectively educate, and find ways to collaborate that are beneficial for both of you, in this world. So
That's one of the values I find in your conversation today, and hopefully more people see that. The more that are having this conversation, the more education we get on some stuff. I know, like I said, when OTAs first came out, people were like, "Well, it's an OTA. What do you mean you don't have to go?" And it's like, nah, and people blowing it off without even looking at it and face
yeah.
value. I have been a cyber evangelist ever since my boss finally shone the light to me and got my light bulb going and going, oh my gosh, why didn't somebody tell me about this years ago? And SBIR, uh, we all know just because you got a malicious malware analysis tool you built through the SBIR program doesn't mean you could run the base hospital IT contract, right? No, I mean, it doesn't always fit for everything. And understand, to your point, the government is overwhelmed. They're doing so much more with less, right? And so, how do we make
Mhm.
their jobs a little bit easier? And those that um, I love helping a 12 or 13, get promoted to 15, right? Show them some ways that they can showcase their talents,
Right?
solve their problems, be the go-to person because they're innovative and trying to do things better. And the best part, SBIR program is legal. It's all FAR based. And the services, for example, I mentioned two of the directives. They wrote their own manual on it, so it's
Yeah.
not like new. And you don't need to take my opinion. Go read your own
Okay.
manual, right? Because your peers are doing it at other bases. You just may not know that. And I like to take the time and educate them, have that conversation about it. I will tell you, there's an upcoming conference, and I was registering for it, and it asks on the bottom, do you have any questions for this the panel session? And what do you think I did? I asked a SBIR Phase III question now as part of registration because I want it on their docket. I want them talking about it when I show up in a couple of months, whatever the conference is. The more people we can get having this conversation, especially those companies that have their SBIR technology um, or SBIR capability. And once again, phase three is no such thing. It's like cyber, it's everywhere. Phase one and two is research dollars. Phase three is go sell it. So there
Yeah.
is no phase per se. It's about just going out there and educating. You have a direct award capability should the government need your capability in their spaces, and you have an acquisition way of making that easy for them.
Yeah. And for the intellectuals who are listening here today, we'll drop names in our post-episode discussion with Bill here on Keep the Change. So stay tuned for that. We'll tell you which conference that is, and so that you can come and meet Bill in person and ask your own SBIR questions. But so let's kind of navigate through like the intricacies of SBIR Phase III. It's crucial to confront, obviously, the challenges. So head on. But Bill, you've encountered some hurdles and some misconceptions along the way. God knows I have. Yet you've turned these into learning and teaching moments, which I love about your style. You are always educating everyone around you, myself in particular, from dispelling rumors to educating key decision makers. Your approach really emphasizes the power of advocacy and information. So, could you share some of your strategies coupled with some robust business development and capture management? Um, how does that play a pivotal role in overcoming the obstacles in securing direct awards? Because it's not easy, because if it were, everybody would be doing this.
Yeah, exactly. No, like you said, I mean, I love passing it on, telling my friends about it, even all my business partners. Some of them, when I started doing this, they're like, yeah, Bill, whatever. Okay. They just didn't get it, didn't fit in their model, didn't see it. So, say, for example, you've got, let's say you work for a company. I'm talking to one of the intellectuals out there. You've got a scope of work. The government wants you and they can't buy directly from you. That's the FAR, right? It's got to be competed. That's the way it is. So what do? Try to go to one of your vehicles where you may be on a contract vehicle, right? And and you say, oh, I'm on GSA Stars or I'm on Oasis Pool 5, whatever the case is, right? And you're shaping that work over them. And maybe that government customer likes it, but the contracting office is like, no, we're not going to do
No
that, or
thanks.
whatever the case is. Or maybe the small business advocate says, hey, no, our women-owned small business numbers are too low, and I want to put this out. I think there's plenty of women-owned small businesses who can do that, right? Okay, they're going to do that, right? They got to do their market research. But I love acquisition turmoil, right? Because when you can go, well, if
Did you
you
say
convince
turmoil? Like you like
turmoil,
the chaos, the turmoil.
Oh, yeah, because when the
Okay.
government has a problem with getting an acquisition on the street because of protest or everybody's complaining about this, whatever the case is, I can come along and I can match my cyber technology in that scope of work and help you justify. Give it to me, right? I'm not. You can give a direct award to me. I'm a cyber company, right? I have this here. I will prime it, and now we go into negotiations, and we can have that honest thing going. Okay, fine. I really want this company, and I really want this company. If they can come in and do that part as a directed sub, and I can shape that work into now it's off the street, right? It is the government now has someone in there doing that, people that they want. And what I have found is my companies, we're not here to keep this for the next 10 years. My job is to help streamline it, shape it, because guess what? I don't have established labor category rates that we have to work under, right? Everything is negotiable. So we can get the right team in there, getting that right work, shape it up, and then give it back to them for competitive procurement. Picture, for example, I had one client who went into, can I start naming organizations and names now, or is
Yeah,
that
we're
later on?
we're gonna name it. We're gonna
Good
name it
idea.
and keep the
Oh,
change.
okay.
So, like,
Yeah,
yeah, stay
I'm
tuned.
just a little tickler. So I went into that one and they said, you know what? I've got 3 engineering contracts. Why am I paying for 3 PMs? And we told them, hey, you know what? You can sole source all 3 of them to me. I'll put them all together. I'll streamline that scope of work and give it back to you in the 2 years. And then you can put it up for procurement. So it's just a 2 year, whatever, right? And I left the company by the time that was working that issue. But the concept is there that that capability is, oh my gosh. And what we found when we solved some of their problems, they're like, oh my gosh, so can I give you this scope of work too? And we saw our contracts grow.
Bro. Yeah.
That one company that I went with, they did this at GSA originally. They had a government client, one of the military services that needed this work done now. Couldn't wait for a GSA vehicle 18 to 24 months to actually get it on contract. So they worked the capability to create an IDIQ at GSA, and it started at I want to say 24 million. Keeps ringing the bell. The first one. Long story short, that IDIQ direct award to that company, 31 task orders, 7 different federal agencies all use that work, and it crested at 400 million
Oh my God.
to that small
That's
business.
crazy. That's crazy. So, would you say that you are a knight in shining armor or Don Quixote?
Oh my gosh. I don't like to put myself in a box.
As you're
uh,
telling me this story, all I'm picturing is like
yeah.
acquisition turmoil, right? Like, is Bill my knight in shining armor who's gonna come rescue me and like magically make all this happen? Or are you like Don Quixote, like charging, um, and putting us, like,
No, coming in to help you. Let's shape it with
yeah,
your customer. Let's solve that problem for them in a cyber. And even if but what's the critical part? You got to use my cyber capability somewhere on that scope of
yeah,
work, right? So we'll find a way. And that's why I say not every cyber capability can do that.
no,
You've got to be able to find one that fits that scope of work. Get a cyber partner to come help you. And what beauty when all of a sudden is, guess what? I didn't have to spend B&P. The government didn't have to do a source selection team. It didn't have, we're on contract within 2 months. We got people billing right away, not a year and a half from now. And you're like,
yeah,
I didn't know this acquisition capability was even out there. That was an option. And once you see it in action, then it's just like, oh my gosh, if you can do that, can you do this? Yes, we can. There's a couple of other tricks that we did, but
yeah.
we'll save that for another session.
We might drop that and keep the change here, but
Okay.
you're gonna put me out of business because I like the long procurements. I like the long proposals. Like the longer the better, the more delays the better. But no, in all seriousness, though,
Yeah.
I think this is good for everybody. It's good for industry. It's good for the government. Um, absolutely. So there, like as we wrap up today's episode here, on SBIR Phase III direct awards. There's so many takeaways, and we're going to still drop more takeaways here and keep the change. But what I got from our discussion was that Phase III is really not a phase for you or your customer's perspective. It's an acquisition advantage. So, like shifting your mindset, I think it's very important. Phase threes are about inserting your technology in the hands of the warfighter or the mission of the agency. So thinking outside of DoD, there's applications in all areas of the government, as long as it supports a mission. And every agency has a mission. The third one is typical competitive rules don't apply. So do your homework. That is something I think is paramount, regardless of what it is. And no, telling your customer outright, no, you will not go to jail. No, we're not doing anything that is not allowed in the FAR. It just you just need to make sure you point to all of that. So definitely do your homework. And the last one is understanding that your IP is not necessarily how the first customer used it or how you built it. Did I miss anything there, Bill? Because I think that last point is kind of important.
No, it like we talked about, just because you built it for that Navy customer, what is it really? And identify what that is. And because what did I say? The description of extending the capability is putting it into a new application, a new
Yeah.
way of using it. And that's the why the government is helping you with the direct award capability and allowing, I don't like to call it a phase three contract, but allowing that direct award contracting to take that capability and put it to new uses. That's what it's all about.
Yep. So this concludes our official episode of SBIR Phase III Direct Awards. Bill has provided some invaluable insights and experiences to us today. His expertise has not only shed light on the strategic intricacies of SBIR Phase III Direct Awards, but it's also underscored their transformative potential for businesses, including small businesses, in the defense and tech sectors. Thanks again, Bill, for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Tom, thank you very much. It was such a pleasure talking with you about this topic. Glad to do that. And I go around to a lot of different conferences and glad to meet up with anybody and continue the conversation as needed.
Absolutely. And don't forget to buy Bill a glass of bourbon when you see him next.
I am a Buffalo Trace kind of guy. So Weller's, Blanton's, oh yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. As long as it's brown and it's bourbon, it's all good. So, to our intellectuals, we hope that this episode has made you think and provided you with some critical knowledge and inspiration to confidently navigate the complexities of SBIRs. And maybe some of you have learned what it stands for, how it's spelled, and what it really means. And thank you for joining us. We really look forward to exploring more strategies for success in future episodes. So please subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned for future episodes each Wednesday. Thanks again to our intellectuals. And remember, you have to think big to win big. Be an intellectual. And until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of possibilities.